Yes. Or 26.
Oh, yes. Let's see. talking one.
Well, there's one more verse on that song.
What's that?
There's one more verse. on
Is
that
there? Okay, I didn't even turn to it. So, yeah. You want to do another verse?
What
song.
does it
Verse
say?
3. Verse 3.
Which one?
485.
All right. Is that right after 484?
Just before 486.
What was that song that we sang during, well, you weren't here.
Sorry.
During the church service.
Oh, I was
we
here
sang-
during the church service.
Yeah, so there was one there, was on him. I'm trying to think of the name. Remember, that's it. He got it.
Yay.
Gleams of the golden morning.
Oh, okay. Cool. What number is that?
205, I think. Yep.
6:26.
All right.
6:26.
Yes, we are. Praise the Lord.
Amen to that.
Amen.
Right.
We need another one?
Yeah, we got a few more minutes and then
I got about-
maybe one or two more.
I got about 2 inches of
What'd you
oxygen.
say, Harry? What'd you say?
I got about 2 inches of oxygen left.
More about Jesus.
All right.
That's
More about
another one
Jesus.
to say.
What number is that?
More about Jesus.
245.
2:45.
245. All right.
Yes, it is.
They're all good songs.
Beautiful. One more? You want one more?
Why not?
251.
All right.
Easter's coming soon.
Are we on the last 30 seconds of that lap?
I got 1 inch left. That's a nice tip.
Yeah.
Nice.
Is this on? Okay. All right. Well, it's been a blessed Sabbath.
Amen.
I look forward to Sabbath more and more as time goes on. And I just seem to get a real rich Sabbath-based blessing. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Greg Barlow. James's mother is my sister, so he's my nephew. And my wife is here with me as well. Her name is Wendy, and my daughter, Larissa. Larissa's from Bozeman, Montana, and that's where my wife and I are based out of. We're snowbirds, like a lot of you are. And we're here in Wickiup, and we just bought some land over in the Golden Valley area, and we're going to settle in.
Amen.
So we're going to make Arizona our home. After Montana and the cold, cold weather that they have been enjoying, we have decided to find a place that's a little warmer where we can remain active year-round. So we are anxious to see how things work out. I spent 18 years as a church school teacher and thoroughly enjoyed that. And the last 7.5 years of my working days were spent as a hospice chaplain in Greenville, Tennessee, working all of Greene County, which is the largest county in Tennessee. I had a lot of really, really rich and interesting experiences doing that. And God led in so many ways there. It was just absolutely marvelous. I'm very thankful that we have the message that we have as Seventh-day Adventists. And I'm very thankful that we have so many channels that God uses to speak to us. Many of those are through music, prayer, through the Word, through pastors, prophets, teachers, parents, grandparents, and so many others. God does speak to us in all of these different ways. And I'm thankful that He does still speak to people. Just a short story that actually happened back in Colorado. Not to me, but to the brother-in-law of a friend of mine. Don't go to church today. John woke up out of a sound sleep. He's sure he'd heard a voice speak to him. He wasn't sure about the message, though, and he turned over and looked at the clock, and it was about 1 o'clock on a Saturday morning. Well, knowing that a voice that came and told him not to go to church, surely that couldn't have been from God, so he rolled over, fluffed up his pillow, laid his head down, and almost got back to sleep. When again the voice came to him and said, "Don't go to church today." Well, that bothered John. He tossed and turned for the rest of the night, and when morning finally mercifully came, John rolled out of bed and sat on the edge of the bed and just kind of contemplated for a few minutes, what was this all about? Well, thinking that since it had told him not to go to church, it should be ignored, and he got his family up, and they had their breakfast, got ready to go to church, and he loaded them all in the car. As they were loading into the car, the voice came again. "Don't go to church today." Well, John was puzzled by that, even more so, but he knew he had to get past this somehow, and so he went ahead, loaded his family into the car, and they drove to church. John pulled up in front of the church to let his family out, and again the voice came to him, "Don't go to church today." Well, John finally just couldn't take it anymore, and he told his wife, "I don't know what's going on, but for some reason I'm not to be here today. I want you and the kids to go on in and enjoy the services. Get one of the friends to take you home after church, and I will see you later in the day sometime." His wife looked at him kind of puzzled, but she went ahead and led the children into church, and John drove back home again. He fixed himself a lunch, got his new coat and his camera and the new lenses he had just bought, and headed up into the Rocky Mountains in Colorado. As he drove along, he kept puzzling. Why did that voice keep coming to me? What is going on? Well, he drove up into the favorite part of the mountains, way up on the side of one of the 14ers that's there in Colorado. And by this time, lunch had come and time had passed and he was hungry, so he finally pulled over in a spot where he could see out over the valley and just enjoy the scenery. He rolled the windows down. It was a spring morning. Or spring afternoon, I should say, by this time. He rolled the windows down, let a little breeze blow through the car, and he said his blessing and ate his lunch. As he was eating his lunch, he was just enjoying what he was seeing, enjoying listening to the breeze, watching the spring flowers bob in the wind, and suddenly he heard something. Bah! Bah! Well, John thought, that's interesting. And so he finished his lunch, and he listened again. Bah! Bah! Well, John thought, there's got to be some little animal out there. Not sure what it was. And so he put on his jacket, took his camera case, and got out of the car and closed the door quietly, and he crossed the road. And as he crossed the road, he looked down, and there was a level place. And at the end of that level place stood a mama mountain sheep, or mountain goat, I should say. And as he watched that mountain goat, she kept looking over at a particular spot. And again, John heard, bah, bah. Well, John thought there's got to be something over there. But mama goats don't like to be disturbed when they have a little one around, and he was very, very concerned. And so keeping one eye on the mother goat, John very carefully made his way down the bank until he was down on the other end of that level spot from the mother mountain goat. He noticed that she kept looking in this particular spot, and again, that weak voice came, bah, bah. Well, John thought there's something over there, and so very carefully he put down his camera case, and very slowly and carefully, keeping one eye on the mother goat, he started making his way over. And as he did so, he noticed that there was an opening, and it sloped down. And because it was spring and the sun had not yet hit that area, there was ice. And John went over and very carefully, making sure that Mama stayed put, he looked down in there, and his eyes grew accustomed to the darkness. Way down, about 20 feet or so, in the bottom of that little ice slide was a little tiny baby mountain goat. Apparently the mother had been standing too close to that area when she dropped the baby, and the baby, in trying to get up, had lost its footing and had slid down that ice down to the bottom of that hollowed out spot. He wondered, now what am I going to do? He looked carefully and discovered that probably if he stretched out his arms and his legs, he could probably reach both sides. And in so doing, he could then make his way very, very carefully and slowly down to the bottom, where he might be able to rescue that little goat. So, zipping up his jacket part way, he laid on his back and very slowly and carefully made his way down with his arms and legs outspread, pressing against the sides where he could reach, until he finally was able to make it down to where that little goat was. As he got down there, it was not real tall, so he had to kind of scooch over, and he was finally able to reach that little baby. And he thought, now if I take this baby and appear at the top of this, Mama Goat's not going to be happy. And he thought, maybe, since it's so slippery, maybe I can take this little goat and put it above my head and give him enough of a shove that he will slide up and out, and Mama Goat will come get him, and she'll wander off with him, and everything will be happy. So he took the little goat and very carefully put it above his head. and he bent his knees down, and he gave a shove. And the little goat went sliding up, but he didn't shove it hard enough. And he came sliding back down and crashed into his head. And John thought, oh dear, I got to try it again. And so doing the same thing, this time he bent his knees even further and gave even a greater shove. And again, the little goat didn't quite get enough. And John decided, if I keep trying this, I'm going to hurt the poor baby. And so the next time when the goat came down, he very carefully brought it down, unzipped his jacket, put the little goat inside his jacket, and zipped it up so the little baby's head and nose was right here against almost by his chin. And then the little goat just relaxed, didn't cry anymore, and John was able very carefully to work himself up and up and up until he got up to the top. He slid out to where he was sitting on dry ground, looked out, and Mama Goat was still over where he was hoping she would be. And John reached down and unzipped his jacket, took that little baby goat out, and very carefully set it out beside him where the mama could see it. The mama goat bleated a little bit, and the baby struggled to its feet, and John very carefully got up and moved away. And Mama Goat came over to where that little baby was and nudged it a little bit and got it up on its feet and turned and with her nose pushed the baby back to where it could find its food. And the little goat nursed for the first time. Well, John very quietly slipped over and got his camera and all the new lenses and everything that he had there. And for the next 20 minutes, he was privileged to be able to take picture after picture while the mother fed her little baby and bathed her little baby, and it was the neatest scene. When the baby was stronger and had finished eating, the mother very carefully and very slowly led it over, and they went down a little path that led off of the end of that little flat area and slowly made their way down the valley until they finally disappeared into the woods. Well, John thought, I guess I've done what I can do here. And he gathered up his equipment and zipped up his jacket and made his way back up over into the road and back over to his car. As he sat down in his car, he just sat there for a little while thinking, could this be why God told me not to go to church this morning? That was indeed God's voice, because he knew that I would come here. He knew this was my favorite spot. He knew this is what I would do. And so he told me not to go to church because there was a little baby goat that needed to be rescued. And as he thought about that, he said, boy, I got to hurry home. My family won't believe this. And he rushed home so he could tell them the story. God does speak to us in many, many ways. And I'm very thankful that he does still speak to us, even audibly at times. The challenge that we all have, and the challenge that I leave with you this evening is, are you listening? Are you listening? Be still and know that I am God. We live in a world that is full of noise, a world full of distractions. And God is trying to speak to us. He's trying to get through. Will he get through to you?
Amen. Thank you. Too bad you couldn't share any of the pictures.
Should we pray?
Thank you, Jesus. Thank you for this heartwarming story. Reminds us of you as the Good Shepherd. Reminds us of the story of the Good Samaritan. There was always something that you have for us to do in this world, and we appreciate the opportunities to be your boots on the ground, so to speak, where we can help others and be a witness for you, to show the love that you show to Lord, we just thank you for your great gifts to us. We thank you for the great gift of redemption, the great gift of salvation.
Amen.
And we thank you for the judgment, knowing that we are going to stand in the judgment with your coat of righteousness, not for anything that we have done, but because of everything that you have done. And we thank you, Lord, that upon this Sabbath day, we appreciate the gift of time you have given us, the gift of rest, the special time that we have had to spend with you and to think about you and to think about your soon coming. We ask this today